Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the forum. I hope you all enjoyed lunch and feel energized. 各位貴賓午安，歡迎回來，也非常感謝各位參與主軸4社福醫療及避難設施整備場次。And now, moving on to session 4, we will be focusing on social welfare, medical care, and evacuation facility readiness. And in this session, we are very honored to have Deputy Secretary General of Taiwan's National Security Council, Mr. Fei Fan Lin, as the moderator. 而今天本场次的主持人為國安會林非凡副秘書長。So now please welcome Deputy Secretary General Lin to the stage. 請以掌聲歡迎林副秘書長。
Hello, everyone. All awake? Okay, great. It's after lunch section, so I imagine that many people will feel like their blood sugars and all the things like were functioning, so maybe a little bit dizzy. But I will try to make everyone awake in this panel. But it's wonderful and truly delighted to have you, all of the participants, to join these sections. As you know, that when we are preparing for our whole society resilience, one of the most important pillars is actually about the medical support. Medical is essential to people's livelihood and to save life, and also for people, for the society to sustain. We can see that there's a lot of different cases around the world that all shows that if you got a resilient medical support, you have a better sustainable society. So a lot of different crises in the past few years and a lot of different incidents happens in the past few years all highlight that point. So today we are truly delighted to have one of the most experienced organizations, I would say that the most experienced organization in the world, Magen David Adom from Israel, to participate in this panel, to share their experience. And this time, we are really delighted to have the head of the Emergency Preparedness Department, Mr. Felix Laton, to join us to share the Israelis' model of their expertise. Please join me to welcome him.
Excellent. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll really try not to exhaust you too much. Yeah, unfortunately, we are too experienced, I must say that. And this is our start. What I'm going to talk with you about is about how we're preparing the organization from our experience to natural disasters and military conflicts, and what is the difference between them, and what can we do in our organization to adjust ourselves to this difference. So I'll start with a few words about the organization. Magen David Adom is the Israeli National EMS Service. The organization was established even before the State of Israel. It was established in 1930. State of Israel was established in 1948. The organization was established by volunteers, but today the organization is with volunteers and employees. Actually, we have 3,200 employees, paramedics, EMTs, ambulance driver, dispatch people, and 32,000 volunteers, starting from the age of 15 until the age of around 85. I think this is the oldest volunteer we have, about 85. And we have a lot of volunteers as well, but the backbone of the organization are, of course, the employees. The organization is the Israeli National EMS by law, although we are not government employees. We are more like an NGO, not exactly, but more like an NGO. But by law, we are the Israeli National EMS, and we are responsible to be the auxiliary force for the Israeli Defense Force when Israel is under attack, which means we never operate behind the borders as military combat medics, but we operate within the country as the Israeli EMS that gives assistance, medical assistance, to the wounded people inside of Israel. We do activate with we do have a very strong partnership with the Red Cross. We're the Israeli Red Cross organization. Then we deployed overseas to support, like Nepal, like Haiti, like Turkey. In many, many other situations, we deployed overseas, but part of the International Red Cross. We work according to Anglo-American system, which means we work with paramedics and EMTs, no doctors in our system. We have 4-tier operation. It starts with Life Guardians. Life Guardians are not volunteers, but they have our application on the mobile phone. There are doctors, nurses that can be activated if there is something happening near them. They need to say, we want to do this. We have our first responders. Again, first responders can be volunteers or employees that can be at home with an ambulance or at home without an ambulance and respond to a situation, crisis situation. They're not working in the MDA at the minute it happens. There can be teachers, lawyers, businessmen, whatever, and they're responding to a situation. We have our employees, which are the BLS and ALS ambulances. Those are our main resources. And we respond to 1.3 million emergency calls per day. And we're also responsible for the National Blood Bank, donating around 1,000 units of blood per day. And we're the ones who are distributing this blood according to the Ministry of Health demand to the hospitals in Israel. You can see that we have 1,850 ambulances. Remember, our population is around 10 million people. The country is very, very small. It's 680 kilometers from north to south, okay? And the widest border are 120 kilometers. So it's a very small country. Then we use only around 450 ambulances per shift. What about all the rest of ambulances? The rest of ambulances are waiting for an emergency. Some of them are at home, on call, with employees or volunteers that they're not at shift, or standing in the station, ready to be deployed if something happened. 4 times is more. We talked about redundancy in the morning. We talked about building capacities and resilience. We understand that 400 ambulances are not enough to give proper response to all the threats we have. We need much more. So we need to adjust our system. We need to be able to grow like an accordion, or to decrease ourselves, to grow and to decrease ourselves according to the situation. What should Mad"A be prepared for? As the national EMS of Israel, we need to be prepared for all kinds of emergencies. The Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Defense are the organizations that tell us what we need to be prepared for. We're not inventing those things from ourselves. We're not the military, we don't have intelligence. They're coming to us and tell us, guys, now you need to be prepared for those scenarios. You can see, of course, the primary scenario in Israel is a military conflict. Then we have natural disasters such as earthquake. Approximately every 100 years, Israel has a major earthquake, and we are quite close to this right now. Terror attacks, industrial accidents, mass transportation accidents, forest fires, bio-events, severe weather. When I'm saying severe weather in Israel, for us, 15 centimeters of snow is a severe weather. Okay? It's a severe weather. Because everything will be blocked, there will be no movement on the roads, it's more than enough. And of course, cyber attack on MDA. How do we do this? First of all, preparedness. It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. We need to be prepared, and preparedness never ends. We're starting to be prepared, and we're learning all the time and keep on preparing ourselves all the time. It's not something we're doing once a year. We're preparing ourselves every day. Doing that by dividing our scenarios. You can see here, those are the scenarios you've seen before in yellow. Armed conflicts, earthquakes, civil violence and everything. And what are the challenges for every scenario? And then we analyze. We analyze the challenges and we analyze the scenarios. And we can do our SOPs, our plans, to be able to respond or by scenario or by a challenge. This system allows us the all-hazard approach. It allows us to be prepared for several scenarios by analyzing one challenge. And then we don't need to teach our teams. We don't need to teach our leadership. We don't need to teach our partners, our stakeholders, how to react to everything. We only need to tell them, listen, If there is a high demand for blood, it will be fit for many scenarios. And now let's work on that. Let's do this preparation. Let's build the proper SOPs. When we're talking about armed conflicts and earthquake, and this is what I'm going to talk about today mainly, we can see that there is a lot of similarity. Okay? We'll have many casualties. We'll have destruction. We might have power outage. We might have problems with the chain of supplies. We might have problems with a lot of things. But even though there are a lot of differences. The map on the left is a map of sirens in Israel. When I say sirens, I mean missiles that are flown from Gaza, from Lebanon, from Iran, from Yemen to Israel in the past year. Every color is a different area, and you can look at this, it's around a minute and so while I'm talking. First of all, there is one big difference between earthquake and military conflict. Earthquake happens immediately. It starts from 0 to 100 in 45 seconds, and then you have a period of response. The initial response can be 48 hours, can be a week, depends on the severity of the earthquake, and then you're starting the recovery phase. War is something totally different. War, first of all, you probably will know something before it will happen. It's not a total surprise. It can be a total surprise, but it's only if you dramatically failed. It shouldn't be a total surprise. You should know who your enemies are, you should prepare yourself, you should do some preparation before. And then war will take time. It can last from days to years with all time different periods. It's like sinus wave. There are periods that the wave is very, very high, and sometimes it's a little bit lower. This allows us to make a lot of lessons learned during this period. We understand better what is going to happen. For instance, I will show you that in a few minutes, in the last conflict with Iran, which was only 12 days. But those 12 days allowed us to learn and allowed us to adjust our approach that was totally different after the first 48 hours. And I will show you why in a few minutes. Airspace closures. When we're talking about earthquakes, the first thing we all think about is international support. No country, even the strongest country, cannot deal with a serious earthquake without help from others. But during war, airspace might be closed. Airplanes might not be allowed to fly. Other countries might have a problem to reach you. To send help by sea can take much longer. Especially when you're talking about countries like ours, that our borders are occupied with neighbors that we don't have a very good relationship with them. Civil military coordination. This is relevant both to earthquake, to everything, but when we're talking about small earthquake, not something huge, not Turkey 2023, but an earthquake that you have 3-4 buildings collapsed, you can deal with it by yourself if you're a strong civilian organization. But when we're talking about military conflict, the civil military cooperation and coordination must be very, very strong. And it sometimes might be a problem because there are countries in the world that it's not that common that they will have the civil military coordination. There are countries that this is very strong and countries that is not. But when we're talking about war, we need to coordinate. We need to coordinate when we can go, where we can go. If now there are roads that the army need those roads to send ammunition and to send transport, maybe those roads will be blocked for civilians that they won't be able to go there. You need to know that. If there is a threat on your border, if the army is doing something somewhere, you need to know that. You need to know if the army needs your help. For instance, in Israel, the army needs our help in evacuating soldiers from helipods in the hospitals to the ER. Or if the soldier is coming wounded from the border, they're bringing him from the conflict zone into Israel, And many times the army asks us to go and to pick up the soldier and to bring him to the hospital. So once again, military-civil cooperation. And I will speak about it in a few minutes again. And the next thing is continuous demand for blood. Earthquake, you need a lot of blood in the first days, a lot of blood. You need to make surgeries, you need to treat, but then slowly, this demand for blood decreases. So if you have a lot of donors, at the beginning is excellent. You'll get enough blood, you can keep this blood for 30 days, and this is fine. But when we're talking about wartime, we need to think, how do we plan these donations? Because if all the people will come to donate blood at the first week, who will come to donate blood after a month? Who will come to donate blood after 3 months? So the blood donation needs to be pre-planned. And you need to find the proper places to bring people, because I don't see people that coming out during sirens and flying missiles and flying drones to give their veins that somebody will take their blood. They want to feel safe. Even if they're highly motivated to give blood, they want to be safe. This is medical infrastructure targeted, both kinetic and cyber. It's a hospital in southern of Israel. Hospitals can be hurt. It's something you need to treat. There is a difference between the injury pattern. In earthquake, you have several types of injuries, but during warfare, you can have those injuries, including warfare injuries. And it's everything combined, so you need to prepare your staff, you need to prepare your teams to be able to respond to that. There is a continuous threat to response teams throughout the event. You can see here our team going and somebody with RPG that was targeting this ambulance a few minutes before that. This is a missile from Iran. Just think about it, what size. And this missile was intercepted in the air and it fell down. This is missile after interception. This is the threat. We need to work in this environment. The EMS needs to go out and need to work in this environment. It's a missile hits a building, residential building in Israel during the last conflict. You can see here what happened to the building, and you can see what happened around the building. So it's not only the building itself, it's what's going on around the building as well. So there are many casualties. Some of them are critically wounded, some of them not critically wounded. Where do you go? Here you can see the ambulance arriving to this area. Imagine now this situation is at night. Somebody runs from this building, gives him the patient. He don't know that here there are more casualties. He don't know that here there are more casualties. So we need to change and make a different doctrine, make a different way to work, establish different profile to how we operate. And it's something we did in the first 48 hours because we understood that the situation is totally different. The most important thing to mitigate the gap is to share doctrines, to have shared doctrines with all the stakeholders, with all the first responders, police, medical teams, fire department, military, depends how it goes. If you have something like National Guard or Home Front Command, civil defense, or maybe something else, everybody needs to understand how it works together. Make combined exercise and training, exchange LEA officers, that everybody will know to talk with one another. Remember that the language that we use and the language that the army uses can be very different. The mentality can be very different. Maybe less in Israel because you all know all of us doing some type of army service, but in countries that is not that common, you need to find a way to overlap this mentality difference. And the only way is to work together, speak together, practice together. Plans and SOPs for every scenario, seminars, exercises, and drills, as I said before, ready to full in transition from routine to emergency in 3 hours, which means that we're going from 500 ambulances to 1,800 ambulances in 3 hours. Everything totally ready. Human resources planning, customizing planning of blood donations. We have PPEs on all of our units. Every ambulance, BLS and ALS ambulance, has a PPE. PPE for sharp nails, shooting, PPE for hazmat, and PPE for biological. Antidotes for all kinds of chemical weapons, such as sarin gas, organic phosphate, cyanides, and command and control equipment. We have bulletproof ambulances. We have fortified dispatches with the redundancy of dispatches. We have several dispatches that if one dispatch won't work, we can go and work on a different dispatch, then it can work in all over Israel. Redundant call centers, MCI trailers, station shelters, because people won't come to work if they can't have a shelter. They need a shelter, whether it's a hospital or whether it's an EMS station. Portable generators, water, gasoline, ATVs, of course, and all kinds of stands and everything. Here you can see our truck, our bus, sorry, this bus takes evacuating infants in the first day of the war from a hospital that is not protected, not sheltered hospital, to a hospital that is sheltered. Blackout contingency plan. It's very important to have a blackout contingency plan that you will be able to work and to operate without communication resources. And top 5 things I want to tell you that we as an organization are always trying to bear in mind. First, all hazard approach works. If we're doing correctly, if we're planning correctly and maintaining it, changing it according to what we see, it works. Plan and coordinate together with all stakeholders. You cannot do this by yourself. We need to work together. Everybody. The civil population, the officials, the first responders, everybody needs to work together. The nature of the event allows time to learn. So learning and adaptation and continuous improvement are very important. Be agile. Don't stuck on one program. If it's not working, try to think about something different. And the last thing, which is very important, take care of your people. Take care of your people, take care of your personnel, because acute stress disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder are critical to our well-being and to us to be able to maintain this work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Felix. So we are now moving on to the panel. So please join me to give Mr. Felix Lothem a big round of applause. And so I would like to invite all our panelists to join us on the stage. So first one is the Deputy Minister of our Health Ministry, Dr. Lin Jingyi. And the second one is the member of our Holo Society Defense Resilience Committee, Dr. Xiao Yawen. And also Mr. Sami Lopi from Finland to join us. He's the director from TEMET to join this panel. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Have a seat. Have a seat. Yeah. Great. Okay, so we heard the discussion of the Israel's model of the medical preparedness, and also how Israeli government and also the civil society and medical service work together, and different agencies can actually work with each other for the similar task and also the same goal. So I would like to first invite our Deputy Minister Lin Jingyi to share a little bit more about how Taiwan is doing our preparation planning for the medical service and also our medical resilience program. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. it's my honor to share some work we since a couple of years. But actually in Taiwan, we're preparing about our medical resilience, especially for the crisis or disaster. Actually, is our daily life, because in Taiwan we have earthquake, we have typhoons. But that is a very different scenario is with if really happened with the war. It's just short times and long times disaster is different. But also in Taiwan, in earthquake or typhoon usually localize the disaster situations. So another counties, medical or medical doctors, staffs, and hospitals, we could go to this area to help to each others. But all we know, if the war actually will be whole nation issues, it will be a huge challenge for us. So thank you, Fei Fan. Actually, he hosts a lot of meetings in past more than 1 year. We preparing about our resilience. So I think one I want to point out for us, now we are trying to build more better preparing. First is how to keep the resilience during our daily life. Because in Taiwan, our health insurance covered 99% of populations. We cover any kind of disease, from common cough, headache, fractures, to cancer treatment. So actually in our emergency room, especially big hospitals, doctors and nurses are exhausted for their daily life. But they are our key person if we really have the war or disasters, big disasters, they are first line to do these jobs. So just like you mentioned, the preparing for us, first is how to keep their resilience, not exhausted, and they could still keep their ability to do that. I think knowledge and ability is not, we do not worry about that, but the resilience, especially in the spiritual and their passions and their knowledge, this first line. And second, we need to increase more hospitals and medical workers to know what they need to prepare. Especially in our county area, maybe some smaller hospitals, the doctors and nurses actually, for them, they do not realize that they have the mission if really the war happened. What kind of skill? Where is the blood supply? Where is the drug supply, medical equipment supply? Of course, we after the Ukraine war, we prepare it's about maybe 100,000 people for the equipment, medical equipment and drugs for 100,000 people, and in different hospitals around in the Taiwan. It make us at least, if suddenly we are being attacked, we could apply the first line for the medical equipment and the drugs. And the third, I think very important is how to communicate. Our challenge is how to communicate with all our medical staffs, societies, patients, families, and the social media. Even now, we also have another cyber attack, is disinformations. We could, because many of our medical workers, they are exhausted for their daily life. So this information now is another to destroy all the supply systems, make them retire from their daily work, especially the first line is the medical services. So that is first, I want to talk to everyone that now we are preparing and we know what is our challenges. And second, we prepare about the blood supply. I think I would really thank you. Many of our friends talk us blood supply is very, very important. In Taiwan, the blood supply is actually we organize very good systems to make sure the blood quality is very good. We also order the blood supplies from donors, not any free to donation the blood. But if we need to keep very high volumes of blood supplies for very long times, it will need to renew our systems. So now first we will have our original the blood bank in Taiwan. At least we could have a medical equipment for the blood supply is first. And second, now we are trying to build different stations, especially in military hospitals, to build the blood stations in different and very important big hospitals. It will prevent if we broke up in the transportations of the blood supplies. At least this is very majority hospitals, they could supply the blood by themselves. But we need to, next we will still need to fix the laboratory test for blood supply, because now all the blood systems from our foundations or blood foundations. So if we were to have a different stations, all these stations need a kit or more simple test for the blood qualities. That is now we are preparing. And the third, I want to share that we are preparing about drug resilience. Taiwan is a small country. We also have a national health insurance, so it's one single systems for drugs and medical equipment supplies. So now we have over actually we have almost 40% of drugs we need from another countries. So if really we broke down our transportations during the war, we were lack of the drug supplies. So now we have another programs to prepare our drug resilience. We hope at least the essential drugs we could provide by ourselves. Or now another very important is we try to find our the friends could cooperate, especially for drug and equipment supply chains. And third, of course, I will stop here. Also, we training our surgeons and our the nurses to learn more different skill, because in Taiwan we try to save everyone in emergency situations, but I think the scenario is different. So now we have a set two very important is try to training more medical staffs to learn about if really we need to facing the challenge of the war, you need to transfer your mindset, what the skill we need to learn, and what kind of the procedures and the transfer patients procedures were different. That is we are preparing in recent years. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Minister Lin. And I just want to also ask some more points about the medical resilience programs that we have here in Taiwan. It's actually, we try to, it's similar, a little bit, well, Israel is a model that we are looking at. Finland is also another model that we are trying to figure out how to improve our infrastructures and also some of the facilities. But I think that in the past few years that we already put a lot of energies and also resources into these investments, including the underground hospitals.
Underground medical space.
Yeah, so that is also one aspect, and maybe we can chat about that later on as well. But I also want to mention that another important point that we are looking at Israel's model is about the manpower for medical service, about training, about our trauma surgeons, can they get enough training, and also more realistic training for doing all this help, directly assistance to the people. So, and that is actually the area of Dr. Xiao's expertise. And Dr. Xiao is a member of our Heart of Society Defense Resilience, and she also helped a lot in our system to train our medical doctors and trauma surgeons to enhance the capabilities to help people. I would like to invite Dr. Xiao first to address about your experience of helping training systems here and maybe some other programs that you're doing now. Yeah.
Thank you. And first of all, I have to apologize because I think my English is not good enough to express my thoughts. So I would like to speak in Mandarin. I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
各位貴賓大家好，我是蕭雅文醫師。那我在就是過去這幾年在台灣，因為我本身是一個急診醫師，那我也參與了很多台灣在過去這幾年災難醫療應變的一些，不管是人員的訓練或者是一些機制的規劃上面。那最近這一段期間，我們也慢慢的體會到，災難醫療應變這件事情在整個不管是世界或是台灣，它其實很重要的一件事情是我們必須要認知到，它不是只會發生在醫療體系裡面，它應該是要從社區到院前醫療，一直連接到我們的醫療體系的這整個系統，所以它是整個這樣的一個 system 可以運作起來，這個人民的生命、傷者的生命才有辦法去就是接受到一個比較好的有一個比較好的一個 outcome。所以我們在過去從2020年開始，我們就開始一直在做所謂的一些社區的第一線應變人員，包括我們的民眾一些 volunteer bystander 的一些訓練的一些計劃。那我們有從民眾的這一端我們開始，我們有在去年跟 AIT 有合作，推動了一個所謂叫做元首，就是社區第一線應變人員的這樣的一個培訓的計劃。那在這個計劃裡面，我們跟以往一般大家可能熟知的一些所謂的急救訓練不一樣的地方是，我們更 focus 在一些所謂的 trauma， 就是外傷的一些基礎的一些照護跟訓練。所以我們訓練我們的一些民眾，他們可能是非醫療背景的一些人民，我們訓練他們怎麼樣去辨識危險，保護自己，然後開始可以在安全的一個情況之下去提供給傷者一些基本的一些創傷的一些照護，包括包紮、包括止血、包括一些基本的固定，怎麼安全的去移動這些人到一個安全的地方去接受後續的進一步的一些醫療的處置。我們也訓練我們的這些民眾在面臨到大量傷患的時候，怎麼樣在他們一些非常簡單的基礎上面可以去提供最初步的照護，然後銜接到後面我們的 EMS、我們的醫療系統的這樣子的一個串聯。那我們從2020年開始，經過了疫情，一直到2024年，就是在去年，我們完成了全台灣21個縣市，那將近22場的一個訓練這樣子的一個民眾，然後也把這樣的一個觀念推動出去。那後來也配合到政府開始所謂推動的韌性醫療計劃裡面有個所謂韌性社區這樣子的一個急救教育訓練，所以大家可以看得到，我們現在在台灣，其實在對於社區民眾的急救教育訓練，尤其在外傷的這塊，在最近這幾年，其實有一個非常大量而且非常快速的一個進展。我覺得這是一件非常好的事情，對我們在推動韌性醫療的準備上面非常非常有幫忙。那最近這2年，我們開始就是也配合政府這邊的一些推動，因為我們知道韌性醫療它其實是一個很大的重點，是我們希望在碰到這些所謂高危或是我們講的所謂的戰爭的情況之下，我們怎麼樣能夠持續的去讓我們的醫療照護可以持續的去提供，因為這個對民眾來講其實是非常重要的一件事情，是他們對政府的一個信任。假設政府可以持續的去提供這樣的一個有品質、可行的一個醫療照護，其實對民眾來講是一個安心的一個保證。但是我們也知道這件事情不可能只靠我們的急救責任醫院、醫學中心或者是這些區域的醫院去提供這樣子的一個服務，也不是只有靠急診醫師或者是一些外科醫師，甚至我們急重科的急重症照護的一些醫師，就可以有辦法去提供這樣的照護。民眾的教育、基層醫療的配合，還有其他一些就是醫事，我們講的 paramedic 的這些醫事，其他一些輔助醫事的協助，我覺得這也是一件非常非常重要的事情。所以我們也在協助政府，就是去訓練這些我們所謂的基層的醫療人員，包括我們的衛生所的護理師，包括我們的基層診所的一些醫師，包括我們藥局的一些藥師，學校的校護，甚至一些長照機構的一些這些所謂的醫療照護人員，慢慢的去讓他們知道，他們在這樣子的一個韌性醫療，在這樣子的一個外傷照護體系裡面，他們其實也有一個非常重要的角色可以去擔任，可以去協助，可以去提供幫忙。 那我最後要講到提一個我自己在這幾年的一個觀察到的，或者是我自己的一個心得。我們有時候會非常的 focus 在訓練所謂的專業人員的專業技術上面，但是在真正就是這麼，比如說我們面臨到很大量的傷患的時候，其實我們會發現我們的這些所謂的專業系統裡面的醫療人力可能是不夠的，就像我們現在可能有面臨到一點點這樣子的一個狀況。所以我在我自己的團隊裡面，我們後來發現，就是我們去訓練一些所謂的不是那麼專業的醫療照護人員，他們可能有一些我們訓練他們一些醫學的基礎，但是他們可以在真正我們在災難發生的時候，專業人員在實行一些所謂的專業醫療照護的時候，其實有很多的一些事情，比簡單的不是那麼複雜的醫療協助是他們可以去做的。那我自己很好的一個例子是，我帶我的團隊在2018年去龍目島的一個地震的時候，那當時在我的团队裡面，我們有3個醫師，但是我們只有1個護理師。所以大家就知道，當醫生很多的時候，護理師很少的時候，其實你是沒有辦法去執行醫療照護的工作。但是我們在我們那個团队裡面，我們的有幾位的特搜人員是我自己訓練出來的終極救護技術員，就是他們的 level 是沒有到很高，但他們可以做一些醫療照護。所以我們就讓那位護理師帶着他們在任務的當中，運用他們在他們原有的基礎的這些醫療的照護訓練的知識上面，訓練他們去協助幫忙打石膏，幫忙做一些傷口的一些照護的工作。所以我覺得這也是我們未來在推動韌性醫療，或是在做一些所謂的戰爭應變上面，我覺得在人力的培訓上面也是一個可以發展的方向。以上是我的分享，謝謝。
好，謝謝蕭醫師。Thank you, Dr. Xiao. So actually, saving life is actually the top task or the topics that we're discussing now. And I think before I move on to the sheltering topic, I think we all understand that there are many different pillars of our medical resilience. First is how we can protect life before any crisis happens. And the second one is perhaps when we come into the stage of the crisis mode, and whether or not we can have enough supply of medicines, blood, and all the stockpile of materials, necessities, and also medical doctors who have the expertise and really can help the society. And later on is about how we can recover from the shock, right? So there are different stages of the situation. But I want to move on to the stage that prior to any crisis happens. That's actually the expertise from TEMET of Finland. TEMET is a company, a private company that help Finnish government to build, and perhaps also not only the government, but also private sectors, to build a lot of underground facilities, bomb shelters, and also the so-called relief centers, disaster relief centers, to protect life. And you probably have also one of the most advanced technologies and helping governments and people to assess whether their buildings are good enough for sustain of this type of attack or any kind of crisis. So I wonder that, Mr. Lobi, can you share with us about what you are doing helping your society, and what the model of Finland can share with us?
Okay, thank you very much. And first of all, I would like to thank for the event organizer having this event and inviting us over here. So it's a great honor and opportunity to be over here and share our experiences. So I was thinking that maybe I could try to tell in brief that what is our, what we could call shelter program in Finland and how we have done it, and maybe you could get some ideas from that how we have organized it all. It's a little bit different setup than over here, but I'll try to explain what we have done. So we have already quite long history on this, what we could call as a shelter program. So it already started after the Second World War in the 50s that we decided that we have to be prepared that if something happens in the future. And of course, it was a very long time for the very peaceful time, but what we think at this moment that it was a very wise decision that what we made at that point already in the 50s. But we already know that in order to make this shelter program possible, there must be some regulation and legislation behind of it, because if that is only a volunteer, it's not that many shelter will be built. But if that is made by the law and regulation, then it will be make it happen. And that's why we already at that point made like a rescue act and laws and regulations that practically we could say so that every new building nowadays you build up which is size of more than 1,000 square meters, so a little bit larger than the own house, but let's say that the apartment house or commercial, if that is size is more than 1,000 square meters, there always must be a shelter. And very typically that is in the basement of the house. And it is not just as a shelter, empty shelter there waiting for some time. What we call that there's always a dual use for that premises. So the residents use that premises like to be like a storage room or warehouse or bicycle warehouse or whatsoever could be the peacetime use for that. Or if that is like in the basement of the shopping mall, it can be used as a parking lot, or there could be a gym, or there can be some sports hall. So in the peacetime there is a secondary function for that premises. But what comes to we have presented today that there's this what we call 72 hours preparation time. So when we are in that situation that things start to be quite tense, so then we can put this act on, and then there's a 72 hours preparation time. And during that time, we turn those premises, which used to be like warehouses, we empty them from the excess stuff, take it out, and we turn those to be the shelters. All the equipment are already there, but we just need to put them in the function mode. So in a quite fastly pace, we can move these premises to be shelters. And that is our base of this shelter system. And what we could say that we have a very good coverage. In Finland, we have a population about 5.6 million, so we are still quite a small country. But let's say that concentration of the people is quite dense in the bigger cities. And in the bigger cities, we have the shelter coverage more than 100%. But in the rural areas, it's not that much. But quite often what is the threat scenario that bigger cities and some infrastructures, they are quite often the targets of who is attacking us. So maybe in the rural areas are not so common targets. But by this way, we building up the shelter program, we could say that nowadays, even that we also have some threat behind of our border that we are quite safe and people are feeling safe and confident nowadays, and we are not scared. So that I think that this whole program what we have made, so that was giving us peace of mind, and that is something which is very, very valuable.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lobi. I actually have one following question I want to ask you, but I would like to turn to Felix first about the similar topics we are discussing here. That sheltering is actually what the expertise that Finnish government have, and also the Finnish society also have the strong expertise on this. But Israel also serves as another model. I know that Israelis have in every building, almost every building and every household, you have your own shelters. And I wonder that what's the mindset behind that, and what the regulations, and what's the idea of that? And I can imagine that there's always some old buildings that perhaps is not suitable for doing that area shelter, or the structure is not good enough. But how you make a progress or make an improvement of this, and nowadays?
So the system in Israel, I think we need to divide it into several periods of time. Before the year 1991, the first Gulf War, and after 1991, the first Gulf War. Before 1991, there were shelters in public buildings, in the condos, usually one shelter in the basement, like it was said, or there was a shelter outside of the buildings if the buildings are small. So there is a public shelter for a neighborhood, according to the amount of people that's supposed to be there. But almost everywhere there were some kind of shelters. After the year of 1991 and the first Gulf War, when the missile threat was more understood, I'm talking about Saddam Hussein, the missiles from Iraq, the Israeli legislation said that every building that should be built after 1991 will be built with shelters in every apartment or on every floor, which means that today all the new buildings have a shelter in every apartment or a floor shelter. Of course, every school and all public buildings and all malls have shelters. And this is by law. But I must address two things. One thing that was said before, even in Israel, many people making their shelters as their basement, as a gym or as a pub or as a place to put a lot of garbage, and you need to maintain it, and it's always a problem. But this is not the only problem. The second problem, it's not a problem, but it's something that's very important, is public education. You need to educate the public how properly to act in case of a siren, what should be done, how should people do it. And I can tell you that a shelter that is in the basement for an 85-year-old male or woman that lives on the 5th floor without an elevator is not a good solution. And after 1 missile, 2 missiles, 3 sirens, 4 sirens, nothing happened, they will stop running to the shelter because they can barely go to the supermarket, and they will stay at home. So there are problems in Israel as well, but public education is probably one of the most important things. And again, it's something that we're doing during the wartime as well. We're trying to make as much as public education before and during, and to tell people, listen, you saw this, what I showed you in the movie? So this building that you've seen, people that were in the shelter at their home were not hurt. All the people that prefer to stay in their rooms, and this was the part that fell down, almost everybody killed. So this is the difference. And this is why we're trying to talk about and educate the public all the time, because this will be probably one of the most important things.
Thank you very much, Felix. And I would like to turn to Mr. Lowy about the relatively related questions. So public education is very important for people to understand the importance of having shelters, and perhaps to require private sectors, perhaps private citizens, to all follow that guidance, to have shelters on the ground in Finland as well. I wonder that your thoughts on what's the most important dimension for communicating to your people about the importance of that? That's the first question. And second question is, recently we all saw the news that Finnish government is cooperating with Ukraine, and two governments just signed the MOU about Finland is going to help Ukraine to build more shelters. I wonder that, can you also share with us a little bit about the program and what's the progress of that? Yeah.
First of all, about this information about to the civilians, that how to, for example, find the shelter and public knowledge about it. So for example, if we are talking about like apartment buildings. So usually there are some people who are dedicated to be like main user of that shelter if that comes into the situation that it must be used as a shelter, and then he or she also has some assistant or backup system. So there are in every apartment building some people who know how to activate these and what things to do to prepare it as a shelter. So and therefore we are also giving the information to the residents of those apartments that what should we do, but of course there are always these people who are responsible of it. And what comes to the other communications, of course there are some signs. This blue triangle is our mark for the civil shelter, so that is usually showing the place. If you are outside of your own apartment, you are maybe in a supermarket or somewhere there, so you can see these signs. So that is like one way to communicate where are the premises and where are the shelters. But of course, we could communicate more about that and be more active. And what I have learned, what is good system here in Thailand, you have this app showing where is your nearest shelter. So that is maybe something that maybe we could also learn from you, that have also these modern facilities that utilize them, how to find the nearest shelter. Of course, there are not always every people using those apps, but anyway, for those who are using, so that could be a very good tool. So I think that was the first part. And what comes to the Ukraine, okay, there is a, let's say so that massive work ahead, but I think that we are still in a situation that this program will not really start before the situation gets cooling down or the war is stopped, because during the wartime it's very difficult, and as we know, to start to make a new construction and new buildings and start to build new shelters. So I think that before the program really starts, we need to have solve this situation somehow, that there's some kind of ceasefire or some kind of pause in that. So, and when that moment comes, so then I think that we really could get progress on the shelter building.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lobi. And I would like to come back to our Deputy Minister Ling about the underground hospitals we are now planning to do. As we just discussed that the model of Israel and also what Finnish government providing here, but it's somehow related to our preparation, because we are looking closely and watching closely about other countries' model. So actually, the one idea we're working on is about underground facilities enhancement program. And can Deputy Minister Ling, you share this a little bit more about the progress? Yeah.
I think in my understanding that in Taiwan, we also have regulations for the public buildings. You need to have the rescue space. But just like you mentioned, many of these spaces are occupied by car, by your equipment, by garbage or anything. And very important, another issue is you could not really guarantee that you have waters and energy supplies if it's really have disasters. So for our regulations for every hospitals, especially the medical centers and the first line, the emergent supplies for medical hospitals, we regulate that at least the hospital could tolerance, they could supply the energy by themselves at least 72 hours. In Taiwan, usually after a couple hours, I think our Thai Power will have recover for that. But at least we ask all these hospitals could tolerance at least 72 hours. This first. And second, about the underground space, medical space. Actually, we check many very important hospitals. The underground space, actually, some parts, because during the buildings, they are not really preparing for the channels, for O2, for the electrolytes, for the, especially for operation room, you have another regulations. So honestly to say, we check many hospitals. Now several hospitals are trying to renew their underground spaces to preparing if really disasters, they could operate very important medical services underground. We also have several hospitals, new buildings. Actually, they have the underground spaces preparing. So one is the hospitals in Pingdong, the north of Taiwan, and second is in Taoyuan, the new buildings preparing the underground spaces for medical services. So that is, we really, I think we really got a lot of the informations and knowledges from our friends, because all the pictures, all the situations could make us to know we do not really preparing well for that, because this is a different situations. Every doctors and nurses, we think, okay, hospital is safety spaces. We have not any idea about it will become the places be attacked. And another information I want to say is in Taiwan we have the medical centers, but also regional hospitals and local clinics. So Fei Fan and us have a conference talk about if the major hospitals are was be destroyed, we will transfer our patients to another hospital. At the same time, several the medical services will operate maybe in smaller hospitals or even in clinics. So we calculate and to register how many portions of the clinics they could provide at least a simple surgery, simple suture, and wound management. So in our mindset is if the of course we try to maintain the major hospitals to keep medical services, especially during disaster or during the war. But we want to have our purpose is to make the regional hospitals, even small clinics, also have the ability become the operation places for some very basic trauma during the war. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lin. And before I turn to our audience for the Q&A, I would like to ask a final question from me. So the question is actually to Mr. Loden and also Dr. Xiao. So two questions. One is for Mr. Loden, that what's your biggest lessons learned from the shock of the October 7th? When that happens, that I understand that the medical system at that time has been overwhelmed, and you are overwhelmed by a lot of different tasks, and the incidents happen, an attack coming out from a lot of different angles. You have the mission to save and rescue people, but you have the mission to help your colleagues to sustain and protect your own colleagues. As you mentioned, that protect your team and help your team is one of the top mission as well. But what's the biggest lessons learned from that? And what would be your suggestion to Taiwan to prevent that similar type of attack happens, maybe militarily? And for Dr. Xiao, I would like to ask you about, like, you're the frontline trainers for a lot of our doctors and our medical systems, and also for the trauma surgeon. I wonder, listen, all this experience, what you need from the government to do to help your work? Yeah. So that's two questions, and Mr. Loden.
So I'll start with two things. One, I cannot tell you how you can prevent this type of event. It's not my duty. I'm not the government, and I'm even not the military. I'm in the EMS service. So prevent the event, it's not my job. It's not my task. Okay. I hope that those people who failed in October 7 will learn their lessons learned and they will prevent the next one. So this is regarding the prevention. Regarding the overwhelming of our medical system, so our medical system was not overwhelmed. Only the 2 hospitals at the south received a huge surge of patients, and even then, within 2 hours, we started secondary evacuation of patients from those hospitals to the hospital in the center and to the hospitals in the north. So they were not overwhelmed. In my organization, the EMS service was not overwhelmed. We had a huge capacity of ambulances that we can use. We used a lot of them. The problem was that because that the Hamas terrorists were inside urban population, inside kibbutzim, inside the towns, we had a very, very serious safety problem, because even with a bulletproof armed ambulance, you cannot go where somebody is shooting RPG. It's not a tank, it's an ambulance. And this was one of the problems. So if I can give you one advice, and I said it during the presentation, the coordination between the civil EMS service, and between the military, police, whoever is in charge of the security, of the safety, is crucial to do this better. And we'll learn from it a lot. We're doing all the time, improving coordination, even though we had coordination. We had coordination with the military before. For this type of event, it was not good enough.
Dr. Shao?
我觉得这是一个非常非常好的问题，但我的回答可能很俗气。如果我们需要最需要的一个 support， 可能就是钱。Money is very important. The plan without the budget is a dream, just. 所以我觉得对我们来講，當然就是我覺得後勤的資源是非常非常重要的。因為我們訓練再多的人，訓練再多的技術，建置很多的一些系統，可是如果沒有一個很好、很持續的、可靠的一個後勤資源，有時候這些東西是很難去持續下去。即便我們現在可以說，醫院維持72小時啊，或者是我的一些基層的一些診所，或者是預設的這些急救站、庇護所，維持72小時的運作，可能不是太大的問題。但就像剛才我們的那個講者有提到，這個東西，這件事情，這個災難，它可能不會只持續72個小時，它可能會更久。所以我們可能需要的是一個非常可信賴或者是可執行的一個後勤的系統、資源系統。那這個後勤的資源系統，不是只有對醫療體系，可能甚至對我們很多的一些NGO 或者是資源的團體都是非常重要的。第二個我想講的是，我們對政府的期待是一個非常清楚的一個政策的說明，一個未來可以一起就是朝向的一個目標。到底我們需要怎麼樣的做，跟政府配合，或者是在這樣的指令下面，知道我們應該怎麼樣去朝着這個目標去讓自己變得更夠強大，可以去協助政府讓這件事情做得更好。我覺得這是我們目前也面臨到的一些小小的困擾。然後一個就是我們很希望政府的是一些行政上面的 support， 因為當然因為我們知道很多的醫療行為或者是很多的醫療救護行為，它是需要 under 這個 regulation 或者是 under 一些法律之下，但是有的時候它可能在一些緊急的情況之下，它需要被調整或者是允許多一點點的彈性去運作。但行政的事情，因為我知道它如果它如果需要嚴謹的時候，它可能就會不夠彈性。當它不夠彈性的時候，它可能沒有辦法去做及時的一個應變跟反應。那有的時候可能就會讓整個的醫療應變，或者是我們講拯救生命這件事情，可能會失去一點點它的一個時效性。所以我覺得行政上面的 support 也是一件非常重要的事情。那最後一個我這是我個人，因為過去的3天我在宜蘭參加這個921的一個演習，那我們有一個就是災難醫療隊的演練。那這是我自己個人非常開心的事，因為在這個 內政部就是部長的支持，還有我們衛福部部長的支持之下，我們這次有一個非常好的一個，包括從國家的我們講國家級的災難醫療隊，然後跟地方政府的一個結合，然後再搭配合上我們這次的軍方的那個前進醫療手術小組，然後我們這次也有民間團體的醫療隊，甚至有來自海外的波蘭跟日本的2支醫療隊伍共同的參與。雖然我們以前從來沒有做過這樣的事情，但是因為以往的一些訓練跟合作，我們在這次的演練裡面去嘗試了一次，我們怎麼樣在真的有災難發生，我們需要各方來協助的時候，我們有一個機制可以去讓這樣的一些醫療的資源跟力量可以整合在一起。雖然它可能是一個初步，雖然它可能還現在不是很符合我們現在政府的一些醫療的規範，但我覺得過去的那2天半的一個演練是一個非常好的開始。我們也希望就是這次的演練的一些成果，或者是一些就是我們看到的或發現到的問題，可以給政府一個很好的一個建議，那是不是可以朝這樣方向再去修正、去發展，讓我们的在韌性醫療有個更好的一個成果？以上。
Thank you, Dr. Xiao. And actually, the Minister of Health is sitting here. So about the budgets, I think he hears that. So he hears that. Okay. So and now I would like to turn to our audience for questions, Q&A sections. That anyone want to ask a question, please feel free to raise your hands. Yeah, 2 here, and maybe the sir there. And okay. Please.
Hi, I'm G-Man. I'm a researcher at INDSR. So I have 3 quick comments and questions, very quick. First, I'd like to thank the group for giving us their presentations. Specifically, I'd like to just focus on one area, then I have a second area. The first area is the shelters. I think Felix talked about the Israeli system. One thing I think, Felix, you might want to add to your presentation is the Tama system of rebuilding might be useful for the audience to hear. The second concern, I think in Finland, you have, when you have a shelter, you have certain standards. For example, water, toilet, electricity. And the question, of course, is how long can you stay in a shelter before it becomes a problem? And so I think in Taiwan, the shelters aren't rated in that way. A shelter is blessed because it's underground, and that's it. I mean, some shelters don't have bathrooms, don't have water. So if the conflict lasts more than a few hours or maybe even a day, it could run into a problem. So there might be some questions about how long you can stay in a shelter. I think the Israeli and the Finnish examples, those shelters usually have facilities for longer term. And then the other point I'd like to make is the medical supplies, the pharmaceuticals. We know that the war in Ukraine has been lasting more than 3 years. The Israeli conflict has been with the terrorist groups is over 2 years. So if both those locations were isolated, I don't think that Taiwan has supplies for medical medicines for a long time. So this is another problem that I'd like to hear of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to collect 3 of the questions and maybe open up for our panelists to respond. So Yahweh. And please introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure. Hi, I'm Yahweh Cha. I'm from Friedrich Naumann Foundation. We're a German political foundation promoting freedom and democracy around the world. I would like to, this is a questions and also a recommendation. I would like to ask all the panelists how we can train the facilities and institutions for the motherhood better. For example, childcare institutions or elderly care institutions. I'm asking this is because this year we have a program with Awakening Foundation, and we gather around 50 gender, women, and all the NGOs here together to trying to come up with policy recommendations to improve Taiwan's civil defense policy. And there are quite many representatives from NGOs who organize, who have around like 100 childcare centers around Taiwan. They reflect that they 100% support government's initiative in civil defense, but what bothers them is they cannot find reliable information from the government about how kindergarten can protect themselves. How should they act if one day China really attacks Taiwan? Of course, they do their effort to research by themselves, but they found so many information on the internet, they cannot find which one is correct, and some of them even collide with their theory of education. For example, in some education theory, you have to expose your child to outdoor as much as possible. But some civil defense literature suggested that to prevent enemy from attacking this facility, you should build walls or even close the window. So these staff, like, they just don't know which to follow. So also they are sort of like bombarded by this information from the parents. Lots of parents, the line group are bombarded by all the disinformation from PRC, like we should not teach kids about civil defense knowledge. The teacher should not inject such information. So anyways, but there are quite many NGOs in Taiwan who provide childcare. They are quite willing to support government's efforts. And, but what it's missing is the government didn't provide them like sufficient and logical, fast reacting information and guideline about how, for example, the kindergarten, if the enemy comes, how should we react? So if we can provide them such information, there will be a very good strength for the government to pass on the knowledge and such actions whole of society. Yeah, so that's why I want to ask the panelists how we can train these facilities and institutions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Minister Liu, Foreign Minister of Interior. Yeah. Yeah. Microphone. Yeah. Here. Okay.
Thank you. I would like to give the whole panelists one information. By 20 years in Taiwan, all the buildings has to have a basement or have the shelters because our rule of architectural technical rule has been there. So we don't have to worry about the space, but we have to worry about what kind of facilities or what kind of basic vital facility that we have to prepare for the shelter in case we have an attack by any kind of disaster, both man-made disasters or the war. Okay, so that's why we asked the Taman to come here to give us more of your information for us to set it up. And the second question goes to Mr. Lowden, because you are in the front line of this kind of emergency preparedness. I would just like to know why the Israeli people, they are so calm down without any panic. Can you give us any kind of information or any kind of suggestion that we can tell our people not to be so panicked whenever what's happened?
Yeah, so all these questions are very good. I really enjoyed the discussion. I'll open up the floor for our speakers, panelists. So first, please, Mr. Lowden.
Well, I need, I think, a week to answer all the questions, but I won't think it will be possible, so I want to start, first of all, with the minister. The people of Israel are not panicked because, as I said before, there is a very, very strong work by the civil defense, we call it Home Front Command, on population education. It is something that is very crucial. And we have people that every time that there is a crisis, coming on the TV and all the media and all the social media and trying to give proper information that people won't live on fake news from the internet, from the telegram, and from, but to give the right information and the narrative, it was said before, to create the proper narrative and to give proper instructions. People start to be panicked when they feel that they don't know what to do. But if they know what to do, if they receive information, they know what to expect, then the panic level will be much less. This first thing. The other thing is we have no other place to go. We won't leave Israel. So it's not that we'll start running away. It's or to go to the sea or to stay there. So we have no other choice. So this is what we do. Okay? Regarding shelter, and I think shelter, we spoke here a lot about the structure, the resources, water, toilets. It's very important, but shelter has its own problems as well. Because the phenomenon of sheltering for a long period of time creates problems. If people now in a shelter for 1 week, people need medications, people need all kinds of things, and suddenly you find yourself in another set of problems. Yes, you have water because you prepared water for 72 hours. You have toilet, you have enough toilet paper, which is one of the major problems. We see that every time there is a crisis, the first thing that disappears from the shelves is the toilet paper. I don't know why. But you have other problems. People start not feeling well. Who will bring them medications? Who will bring them food? You need different types of food. And long sheltering has a problem. This is why our system in Israel, and I'm talking about the alert system, start trying to prevent of people to be in the shelter for a long period of time. The sirens and the alert level is allowing us to go out from the shelter after a period of time and to go in again if needed. It, by the way, concerns the question regarding kindergartens as well, because as a crisis starts, the government says, what is the level of alert? If the level of alert is too high, then there is no kindergartens, there is no schools, there is no universities. People should stay at home. And then the problem with kindergarten disappears. Regarding elderly people, nursery homes, and stuff like this, it's something that we need to train. It's a serious issue.
Thank you. Dr. Ling. Yeah.
Okay, about the drugs, it's really drugs and medical equipment is a very crucial issues. But I want to have an experience that before pandemic, most of the face mask companies of Taiwan moved to China before pandemic. But several of the companies still have the ability to do the face mask productions. So in initiative of the pandemic, our government call our companies manager to talk about how to build all the supply chains immediately. So that is, we talk about the resilience. For the drugs and equipment, most of the Taiwanese companies, drug industry, they have ability to do several kind of drugs, but because of cost problems, because they have not built the supply chains, so we depending on the drugs from outside of Taiwan. So now we are trying to build, first we calculate about essential drugs, to the numbers and what kind of drugs are essential drugs. And now we have programs that try to talk to our drug industries, but also we have regulations that if in the emergency times they have the ability to product this is the very essential drugs or equipment for our medical services. But also very important is they need gather supplies and support from government. So we also prepare the budget and programs for very special the drugs or equipment. The government will support the companies to product that. That is for drugs. And for the aging populations and the children during the disasters, of course, that is a very, very big challenge for us. So for some part, if in families, we try to cooperate with our government to try to make all the families understand how to protect them. But for nursing, the Asian societies, especially in nursing rooms, in special capabilities, that is we need to have the different programs for what the services, first line, second line, and what kind of services when the disasters we could do for them. Very short too.
Thank you, Dr. Lin and Dr. Xiao.
首先，我必須說，這些提問有點超過我的知識範圍。但我從我個人身為一個台灣民眾的想法是這樣子，就是以前我也會常常覺得說，政府需要告訴我們很多事情，他需要教我們說你怎樣去避難，你要準備什麼東西。但有的時候，我覺得，也許我們有時候是應該也要反過來想，因為政府有時候很忙，他不見得可以就是兼顧到很多的事情，所以有的時候也許我們也應該就是從自己做起，自己去，因為現在資訊系統其實很發達，也許我們應該也從就是自己想辦法先去找一些訓練的方式、解決的辦法，或者是一些避難的一些知識，先我們自己也可以先去做一些準備，然後呢再搭配政府的一些政策的方向，或者是後續提供的一些協助，然後慢慢的把這樣的力量去強化起來。所以我自己會覺得在應付這種災難的時候，我們不能太靠政府，因為曾經有人說過，當災難發生的時候，政府常常會不見了，沒有開玩笑。但是我覺得有的時候是真的是這樣子，他可能因為他可能不，他要照顧到很多的方面，但是他會有他們的政府會有他的 priority。但是對民眾來講，我們是有那個能力可以先去照顧我們自己的家人，或是我們自己的社區，我們自己的團體。所以我覺得也許是可以雙向。比如說您剛剛提到的幼兒園的部分，那剛剛那個講者有提過，就是以色列來賓有講過，就是的確那個時候我不認為幼稚園在那個時候還會繼續去上課，就像學校可能不會繼續去上課，它有可能會轉換變成庇護所。那也許對於老師來講，可能他可以去學的是所謂最基本的，在這樣情況之下的一些避難的原則啊，大家可以參考我們政府就是剛公布的那個手冊，我覺得上面應該有提供一些資訊，雖然我還沒有仔細看過，但我想應該上面有一些資訊，基本的一些的保護應該是有的，所以基本的概念是有的。那這個基本的概念，不管是在戰爭或者是其他的災難，我覺得它有些共通性是它可以去用的。倒是第二個，我反而比較想的是，這些幼兒園的老師，他們有這些照顧孩子們的經驗。那假設我們到時候有很多的避難所，或者是有很多的民眾，他需要離開他的家原本居住的地方，去到一個避難所、庇護所裡面去暫時的居住的時候，有一些孩子需要照顧的時候，那我們這些具有專業的幼兒照顧的這些老師，或者是甚至這些就是這些專業的人，他也許可以就在這個庇護所裡面 ，maybe 就是提供這樣子的一個服務。照顧在這個庇護所裡面的這些孩子們，那你的幼兒園的工作可能就會轉換到那個地方，這是我一個想法。然後我想要回應部長的是，其實為什麼會恐懼，是因為無知跟不了解，還沒有準備。假設今天我們慢慢的去知道一些訊息，慢慢的去知道政府有一些什麼樣的一些準備，慢慢的知道我們的民眾可以做什麼樣的事情，慢慢的了解我們現在政府面臨的狀況是什麼的時候，我想人民的恐懼其實是某些程度是可以降低的，這是我的。
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Xiao. It's a very good point that education and to have those information is essential for people to understand and also have the capability to adjust in the crisis. So last, I want to turn to Mr. Lopi. So any response to the questions?
Okay. How much there is time?
We got 10 minutes.
Okay.
But so we can do the last round of the questions and give the final words, and we are going to close this down.
Okay. I try to summarize, but if I start with the question from the gentleman from the middle, so how we are preparing those shelters and for example the water supplies, etc. So if I take a sample of these small shelters, small civilian shelter, what is typical in the basement of the apartment house. So as I said, that we have this 72 hours preparation time. So usually we don't store any water in those premises because after some period the water would not be that good, but we have reserved always the water tanks, empty water tanks into those premises, and during that 72 hours premises preparation time, we start to fill up those with the water. So that will give us a sufficient amount of water. We have calculated how many liters per person and what is the size of the shelter, so then by calculating that we can estimate that what could be the water consumption. Other amenities, for example, toilets, we have there dry toilets. In a normal situation, they are just packed. They don't take so much space, but when we take them into the use, they are just like a tent cabinets or something like that. So in a normal time, they don't take so much space. And same is like a bunk bed, what we are using that normal time. They are stacked in a very limited space, so they don't take so much space. And of course, the filtration units is a key component of the shelter, and that has been planned that we need electricity to run that filtration machine. In these small shelters, if there comes a power cut, we can run that filtration machine manually, and at the same time we can produce some lightning to the premises. So that is our backup system for the small shelters. In the big shelters, there is always like a diesel generator doing the backup for the filtration system, because they would need so much manpower that it's not so possible to do so. So for bigger shelters, there's a diesel generator backup for the electricity. And then there could be a little bit bigger reservoir for the water storages. What comes to the food, we don't store any food in those shelters. So our advice is that everybody will bring their own food. And that's why we have, I could call it like a survival package, what we advise the people that they could have a reserve for the 72 hours period, that they could store some food, some water, some medical supply, whatever they needed. When they go to shelter, they take this package with them, and that is like for their own personal use. What is our scenario? What is the period to be inside of the shelter? So our scenario and what comes to these civil shelters is usually that we go there only for some hours. Let's say that 3-4 hours it could be the time to be in the shelter. Or if the sheltering time is for 8 hours, there is some 3-4 hours, which is the most crucial time, and then there is so-called what we call the shutdown or lockdown period, when we cut all the air inlets and then the filtration machines work. But we have calculated so that it is only for some hours. And as how we have seen what happens in the Ukraine, so when the air raid comes, people go to the shelters, they are there for 1 or 2 hours, and then they go back. So that is also our scenario what comes to the civil shelters. But what comes to the authorities or military shelters, then it's a different scenario, and then they could be there for some days and even weeks, and then you need also some other kind of equipment to start to remove CO2, etc., but that is not the case in the civil shelters. Then coming to the minister's question, so yes, you have those underground premises, and they are planned. Maybe our thinking is a little bit different. That if we really need to do the, let's say, modern type hardened shelter, so there are some principles what we are following. So, for example, first criteria is that it must be blast protected, and that blast protection, that is something which is usually quite visible, that there are heavy doors, etc. So some of the premises what we have visited, so okay, we can see that there are some metal doors, but maybe they are more for the fire prevention. not as a blast protection. And also in those premises, the second criteria is that there is some area we need to make airtight, gas tight, because inside of that area, people are staying in that area and we over-pressurize that area. So that's the way, if there are some biological weapons used or something like that, they cannot enter into these premises where the people are. And also in this area, we use these filtration machines to clean air that is safe to be inside. But to have all these 4 criteria into the present facilities what you have, there is still some work to do. But of course, always being underground, you are a little bit saved from if there comes some missile attacks and some spindles comes, so that is at least a little bit better protection. But how we see that there is some way to do these hardened shelters, but that is how we see the situation.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lobi. I'm aware of the time is actually come to the end of these sections, and I would like to ask everyone to join us to give the panelists a big round of applause. And I also want to conclude this panel in this way, because we all understand that Taiwan is facing the threats, and we understand we must prepare ourselves as fast as we can. Learning lessons from our partners and allies in the world is one of the crucial way to enhance our capabilities. That's the reason why we are holding this event today, and also invited so many international guests from Israel, from Finland to come over to Taiwan. So I really treasure this discussion and really send our best and deepest gratitude to all the panelists today. Please give them a big round of applause again. And at the end, also want to send prayers to our Israeli friends regarding the hostage that haven't been released yet. So we also send the best prayers to Israel and also the people who are still suffering. Yeah. Thank you very much. And please join the tea time. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Please remain on stage. Let's have a group photo before we go. 现在我们先来拍一个大合照。May our moderator and panelists please stand at the middle of the stage and look at the camera and